Hello, this is Aaron, amateur radio call sign N6ACA. Welcome to DC to Daylight. Tonight we're going to be talking about using AI for ham radio, and specifically we're going to talk about Claude's, the AI model that comes from Anthropic, Claude. So we're going to do something a little bit different. I recorded a session I had with Claude a little bit earlier, and I'm going to talk to it. And so what I decided is that I wanted to graph log data that's collected through ADIF files, or the Amateur Data Interchange Format files that you use for logging QSOs and other information in ham radio. And so I'm logged into Claude and creating a prompt, basically telling it to create a graphic representation of the DXCC countries that have been confirmed from the ADIF file. So I've downloaded a file that is the big boy file from Logbook of the World. So the log data that's every QSO and QSL and verification that I've got through there. So it's about a 20 something megabyte file. And so right now, Claude is parsing that information. It's figured out how the data in ADIF is to be parsed. So ADIF is a text-based format. So it's able to go through, read it, understands the structure. It's given a whole bunch of information there. So cool. So it's already figured out. I've got 156 DXCC entities confirmed through Logbook of the World. And so now it's creating stuff. And it's very minimal prompting and data. I haven't had to give it much of anything yet. So generally, I'm a big fan of Google Gemini when it comes to my home AI use. Use it a lot. And so, because I can't use Claude at work now, I decided I would take a look and see how it works on some home setups. So right now, it's chugging along. And so I'm going to go through this real time as well to sort of show us what it's like on an unpaid version of Claude, which you only have a certain amount of tokens. I don't know the whole pricing model on it. If you pay for a lot, you can use a lot more, but I'm cheap on this, and so we're just going to keep chugging along. And as a side note, since I'm interested in DXing and information and both contesting and different awards programs through the ARRL, I'm a participant in the Logbook of the World, and that's why I'm using those logs. I also log through, QRZ and Club Log, but really the one that matters for me, which is like the source of truth, would be Logbook of the World. And I understand some people have complex relationships with the ARRL, but in my mind, it's really the source of truth when it comes to that, because they sponsor the DXCC Award and the Work All States Award. So it's still chunking along. All right, so now it's come up and giving us prompts on that. So it's figured out, okay, so worked 156 countries. The amount of QSOs that have actually been confirmed there as actually a QSL is 24,000. And it's determined based on the log files, like where my grid location. So that CM97CP is my Maidenhead location. Live here in Northern California, and the last log there is the March 9th. That's when I downloaded that file. So it's several days since then, but that's the large file I've got. And so now I'm going and looking at that data, and what else do I want to see? And so I'm saying can create an overlay of countries on my to-do list of places that I have not worked yet out of the total number of DXCC countries. So now it is going to look at what I've worked and what I haven't worked, and sort of create a visualization of that. And so right here, this is generating HTML to output that. So you can actually download that. This is a static HTML. It's not dynamic. So like you could download this and publish it. What I haven't asked to be done is to actually create a program to do this. I'm actually just asking it to analyze the data. But that's one of the cool things about any kind of large language model. Like, I mean, any of them can do this. Claude is really good with dealing with data. So basically taking a data source, saying what kind of transforms you want, and having that make a simple transformation of the data into what you want to see. So if you wanted something that was more uniform in the long term, you might actually instruct the LLM to, instead of actually processing the data for you every time, to take the method that we're using to actually do this and write something in JavaScript or Python or some programming language. So you'd have actually a repeatable process that you could use if you actually really like this format. So it's still chunking along. This is not super fast, but again, it's free. I actually sort of like the way that it's set up. It's, even though it's sort of avant-garde when it comes to how it's displayed, this is all done in HTML, so it's not actually having to render graphics. It's just a rendered text on a screen. Almost sort of is reminiscent to me of like BBS ANSI art, where you would actually do a graphics on a 80 by 25 terminal screen if you're connected to a BBS. And as you roll over it has somewhat interactive content. I'm just playing back the video and talking over it right now, so I can't do that. So it's coming up right now and telling me that there's 129 entities still needed. So it's chunking on that. It's gonna it determined that there's going to be confirmed as blue and needed as orange and red. It just came up with that itself. That's it. It's smart enough to sort of figure out how that is. We could easily go in and change that prompt. I'm not going to, because it's pleasing, and it meets the needs of this presentation. So it just keeps on chunking along. Okay, so it's nice that it actually gives you the status of what it's doing. And the other thing that's pretty neat, and all the LLMs do this as well, in different ways, where it will show the rendering of the specific code that you're working on. So you'll see things change and reload on the right hand side. So you've got the prompt on the left hand side where you're asking questions. It's asking questions back in this conversation that you're having with the AI, and then it will render all that stuff into the various documents. And you see here that at the top of the screen that this is an HTML document. So right now we're looking at the visual version of it, how it's actually rendered. We're seeing all the information that's being provided. You could actually go and look at the source code as well. And so we see right there, it's in the process of running through that stuff, so that the temporary file that it rendered is not showing. So not incredibly high performance, but again, that's what you get for free. It's like I can't complain about something that I didn't pay for. And as a side note as well, the graphic at the beginning of this video was actually generated by Gemini and not Claude. So it actually took several prompts to get it to create something that actually had Anthropic and Claude in the display. It sort of just didn't give me any response to my prompt until I prompted it several times, which I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it was somewhat hilarious. So it's still going. And frankly, you could do this with any sort of log data that you've collected, whether it be ADIF files. You could do it with Cabrillo files. Definitely not Cabrillo files, because if you have a Cabrillo file, you need to eat jalapenos. I had a coworker from New York at one point that did not pronounce Spanish words in a Spanish way, and they love Mexican food, but they could not pronounce jalapeno worth a damn. So it's still going. But when you're visualizing in your head what you want to come up, the more descriptive you can be to the LLM of what needs to be displayed. So if you want to display things in a specific mapping format, if you wanted to do it in a format such as take QSOs and map them into a KML file, which is I think it's the keyhole markup language that they use for mapping, which then allows you to do some really cool things with that. So, depending on how you want to see the data and look at it, there's several other things I've thought about doing that I haven't had a chance to do yet. Looking at my log data, comparing signal strength with time of day versus completed QSOs to come up with windows of working different continents and countries based on specific antennas. Because in my ADIF files, or at least the raw ones that I upload to Logbook of the World, I put the power information as well as which antenna and radio I use. And this is me being cheeky right here, and that did not go through. And being able to go through and say, okay, if I want to work someplace like Belgium, or if I want to work the Czech Republic or whatever, look at previous QSOs that I've had, based on time of year, and we could drill down into that. All right, so now it's overlapped, what I don't have and what parts of the world I haven't worked. The funny thing is, the number of DXCC entries is totally wrong. So when I look at the maximum amount that it has come up with, and here it's given a whole bunch of information that's actually super helpful in planning. But okay, so I'm going through and doing a printable checklist like it's asking. But one of the things that's totally incorrect is the total amount of DXCC entries. So I'm going to address that in a little bit after we generate some PDF files and all that. But I have no idea where this data came from. And so this is like a word of caution when you're actually processing data through AI, is like, understand that in a way this is a black box type of process, is that you have an input and an output. You really have no idea what's going on under the hood other than what it's telling you about the process. So because we know that that's the wrong form of data, we can actually inform the model with more information if needed. And so it's still coming up with a printable checklist. And a lot of these things are available through ClubLog, or there's other tools built in to logging software or on online websites other than ClubLog. And I'm not saying that you should stop using those things. I'm just showing the utility of what kind of data visualization and transformation you can have by just using a regular LLM. You've seen that we've given it minimal prompting at this time, and it's really come up with a lot of useful things that are somewhat incorrect. But we can actually go and inform that model. So right now we're going to go and look at the ARRL site, and I'm going to search for information on DXCC. So we'll go through there and try to find reference material that we can provide to the LLM. So I'm sort of stumbling around here on the website. That's not what I want. And so searching around. All right. Okay, so we have raw text file with all the information that we need. Has all the individual entities with the prefixes, all of the specific information. And so now I'm going to inform the model. At some point in the very near future. So it actually is pretty interesting to actually, if you have a chance to actually drill down through the whole DXCC list and see the different entities that exist. Okay, so I am informing the model about the total number of DXCC countries or entities that are available. And so I'm saying for honor roll, I didn't give it the total amount. We can see it rendering that checklist based on the incorrect information, but it looks pretty cool. I mean, so it's basically generating a PDF file. So you can see that I gave it that link, and so now it's been informed with what the actual real data is. And since I've entered it and told it that it needs to use it, now it is recalculating everything based on that. And that's going to take a little bit of time. And like I said, I'm doing this real time to show you how it chunks along. And frankly, I haven't really looked into all the different models that are being used within Claude. So like I said, this is the Sonnet 4.6 model. Frankly, I don't really know the difference between what's involved in those models and how it's informed and all that kind of stuff. But hopefully, the prompts that I'm using here and come up with will then inform future models based on our queries and prompts, that when people are looking for data, they'll actually have the right source of data. And that's sort of the beauty about some of these models too, is that once people figure out how to do things, then it feeds forward into usage for other folks, on the public model. So we're looking at North Korea there. At some point, hopefully in my lifetime, I'll get to work KP5. Probably not likely. All right, still chunking along. And this could be done on a local LLM if you're running it on your machine. I'm just running it on a cloud-based LLM or internet-based LLM just because it's convenient. I don't run models locally at my house, but depending on how you do things, most likely if you are running a local LLM on your machine, what I'm telling you right now is not giving you any new information, and you're probably sort of laughing at this because this is really remedial. But I'm just trying to show how simple your questions can be and within the discussion, and how you can go back and forth and actually come up with really visually stunning materials that are helpful in making decisions and sort of informing you of you know what's your future path, your checklist, to-do list. Like, we could easily take this data and analyze it to look at all the modes and say, okay, I've got these specific country entities, and what do I need to work all these on CW or on phone, or if analyzing satellite data to find out what grid locations that you need to complete something like it, to actually get like all the grids in a specific area, or on 6 meters, if you're trying to get the Fred Fish Award, tracking your progress on that based on your logging data. And I'm sure that there's ways that you can hook this up where you could have it generate a program that then can call Logbook of the World and download your most current version, or download from some other log system, using a file transfer protocol or whatnot, and do that. But that's the whole point, is it's really flexible in how you can do these things. And this right here is more of a and it's wild, looking at how it's visualizing this right now. It's going through the data and it's sort of upside down and backwards. And it just takes a while for it to figure things out. Look at this as sort of a sandbox and how you figure things out. Oftentimes I do back the envelope math on things to do rough order of magnitude or things like that. This is can be that way. It can be your workbook to go through and ask questions and just sort of figure things out. I mean, there's other things that I've looked at doing as well. Being able to come up with circuit diagrams and route circuit boards and things of that nature, and do things that are computationally intensive or difficult for me. I'm not really strong with advanced math. Based on the different formulas and stuff, you can figure out various antenna patterns. I actually used Gemini a while back to come up with a nice 6-meter Moxon design, and that I actually used that during the VHF contest earlier in the year. I made a few contacts on that. That was pretty cool. All right, so it's still going through and recalculating it. Not fast, like I said. All right, still chunking along. And the nice thing too is that once you have the dialogue, for the prompts that you've created, you can go back to different versions of the files and you regress to certain levels. So if you've made some changes and you just don't like it, you can instruct it to move back and revert those changes. It And then anytime along the way you have the ability to download the files. So for some of these things, like the HTML file it generated, we can just dump that onto the local file system and use that. We can edit that manually, or we could enter it into another HTML editor, or we could take it into another LLM and do other things with it. There's other models that maybe have better strengths, and you could take something that maybe it could generate in Python, and you could optimize it or have it change into another language, let's say C sharp, or C++, or whatever, or Lisp, or any kind of random language. And it's still going. But whatever ideas you have about answering questions, it's worth spending time investigating and experimenting with AI. All of the platforms are generally free for a certain amount of time, whether it be tokens or a certain amount of requests, or whatever kind of metric they use to deal with it. Oftentimes the free platforms don't have advanced things like video creation, but other like Google Gemini, they have the Nano Banana 2 interface within the free, and you can generate images. You can upload images that you want to edit and give it a prompt on what needs to happen. So now we see it's uploaded, or updated, I should say, to the proper number of total DXCC entities. It's got me 156 countries, and it's still running a prompt. But basically, it is still chunking along with that. But it's updated based on the information that we provided. We gave it a source of truth at the ARRL for the countries, or entities, or whatever we call them, and it updated the information it had based on that versus whatever kind of other random source that it had come up with before for the total number account and the countries. So I had never seen this before. I guess it compressed my search history or whatever to continue the conversation. So I'm not sure if that is a function of the free version or not. All right, so now it's created all those files, and now it is put a list, and now I just used up all of my time, so I can download those files now. There, so I've got them all in a zip file. You can download them individually, but now we have this functional thing that I could literally take that and put it on an Apache server and serve that up, and it would look super cool as static content. And you could have, depending on how you have your LLM set up, you could process that and then have, an automated process shoot it up to your web server. And so, as always, I generally am nice to the LLMs. Because as they become our robot overlords, we want them to be kind to us when Skynet gets activated. All right, well, I hope you didn't find this too boring. I'm going to spend more time looking at data for logging. This has been Aaron, amateur radio call sign N6ACA. This has been DC to Daylight. And I'm going to say 73. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.